Hi all, welcome to the Bommy Beach B2B MX case study session. I'm really pleased to welcome Molly and John to tell us a little bit about how CodeScience unified its ABX approach to run its business on MQAs and intent data insights. So I'd love to introduce you to Molly Walsh, who's the head of marketing at CodeScience, and John Russo, who's the founder and CMO of B2B Fusion. And if you don't know me, hi, I'm Nirosha. I'm the VP of Marketing at Bombora. So Molly and John, I'd love to hear a little bit more about you.
Okay, hi everybody. I am Molly Walsh. I head up marketing at CodeScience. I have about over 2 decades experience in the marketing industry. And for the past 5 years, I've headed up marketing at CodeScience.
And I'm John Russo. I'm founder of B2B Fusion, and we've had over 100 account-based experiences, including with our client here today, CodeScience. And I'm grateful, one, for having CodeScience join in on this, and two, Nirosha, for you having us.
Thank you. I'm super excited to hear this story. I think it's going to address a lot of challenges that a lot of marketers have. So, just to jump straight into it, Molly, would love to hear a little bit more about CodeScience and your challenges.
Absolutely. CodeScience brings commercial products to market on the Salesforce App Exchange. We have built over 10% of the App Exchange. We create solutions for SaaS businesses that transform their business and their bottom line. And in terms of the challenges that we were experiencing, they really fell into 3 buckets. So misaligned metrics and measurement, this quote that you're seeing on the slide about smashing my head on the wall, that is true. We were really struggling trying to make sense of, we had reporting from our 3 pieces of our tech stack. So Marketo, Engagio, which is now demand-based, and Salesforce. And it was really difficult to discern the value that we were bringing to the table. The second piece is 2 funnels. We had a sales funnel, we had a marketing funnel. They were not aligned, and it really was difficult to get timely action. And then this last piece, we really did have the best intentions for intent data, but for us, it was very difficult to operationalize what we were receiving with the sales team.
Molly, can you tell us a little bit about your decision to work with B2B Fusion, especially approaching this project? Because I know that a lot of other businesses would look to do this internally.
Yeah, I will say we did try to muddle through a little bit on our own, but we quickly realized we just did not have the skill set in-house, and I needed to get answers quickly. So we looked to B2B Fusion to get this resolved with greater speed than we were able to do ourselves.
Cool. And John, I think it'd be great to hear how you approached this project with Molly, especially with her challenges, the challenges that she had.
Yes, great question. So her challenges were very similar to what we see in the industry. And first of all, let me say it's really hard work to get from point A to point B. You've got a lot of different go-to-market motions, leads, partners, alliances, intent data. And so a question comes up, what do you do with all that information? Then the second question that came up when we were looking at Molly's tech stack was, how are we going to operationalize this in a way that's going to be simple for her to use, yet able to drive business impact? Then the last question that came up was getting the business processes around metrics and measurement. What should we be targeting? How should we be targeting? And what can they expect to see in terms of milestones, short-term and long-term, with metrics? And so ideally, what we're really trying to figure out is, how are we generating the right demand against the right accounts at the right time? The way we did this was we took a look at something called the Topo funnel, which is a terrific framework. Topo calls it the dual funnel. They published it in October 2019. I think what you'd find, though, if you did research, not just with them, but with others, operationalizing this concept is very, very challenging. In fact, there's nothing really written about it out there in the industry. That's really left up to consultants like us to work through and figure out. And so today, what we're sharing is the story of the multiple go-to-market strategies, and we unify it on one level called a marketing qualified account. So that's really been the approach that we took in trying to simplify it from a marketing and sales perspective.
Right. And that's something I think that's key, because as you said, there's all of these different models and frameworks, but really being able to bring it to life is something that a lot of businesses are challenged with. So it'd be great if you could take us through exactly what you did and set up for CodeScience.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to start this off. First of all, this slide looks like an eye chart. So at first blush, the most important takeaway is really in the bang box in the red, which is the handoff between sales and marketing. And in a few moments, I'm going to ask Molly to maybe share what her experience is there, but it's the level that we call the marketing qualified account. And if you think about the marketing qualified account as a cake, and there are ingredients that fill into the cake, ingredients such as inbound, ingredients such as your partners, or ingredients such as intent data. The idea behind this was we wanted to present a currency or a simple unit of measurement between marketing and sales, such that the sales team didn't have to become versed in intent data or account scores or new motions or new processes within Salesforce. We wanted them to work on the same activity over and over again. And the reason we wanted to do that was salespeople are really strapped for time, and marketers want to make sure that they're executing on a marketing qualified account. So through some process and definition, that's how we came to this approach. And maybe I'll ask Molly from her perspective, how are you using the MQA?
Yeah, for us, the MQA is this critical piece, right? So above that line is where marketing is doing all of its work to engage our target accounts. An MQA is triggered, and then we hand it over in a beautiful platter to sales for them to run, and get that closed won business. So everybody rallies around this one single KPI.
Right. And I know that, from discussing just our discussions, that it was a challenge to be able to come to that, because there was, one target that sales had, one that marketing had, and getting that unified language. Can you talk to that challenge a bit and what that process was like?
Yeah. So for us, we had different flavors, right? So depended on the channel of where it came in, also just the language of Salesforce itself. So Salesforce talks about a lead, whereas our ABM approaches were about the account and how to get something that translated where both sides agreed we were ready to run. And so the work that B2B did with us, we centered everything around the contact, which then translated to the account and then the MQA, the marketing qualified account.
Awesome.
And one quick thing on that too, just to add, Nirosha, would be the process that we went through there was originally we came up on our side with a hypothesis based on what we saw outside looking in. So we had fresh eyes, and then it was an iterative process to really get to that MQA. And it's still kind of iterating, you're never really done. We're still kind of iterating on that process. So just to add to what Molly was saying there.
Yeah. And I love that, because it's true. These systems are living and breathing, and your business is living and breathing. And to be able to have that approach and to keep iterating and learning from that, I think that's something that's super important and crucial. And then, John, I think you were going to take us through what the benefits were of moving through to a single funnel model for CodeScience.
Yeah, great question. So as part of the benefits, first, maybe go into the right side of this slide. What we want to do is be able to give a roadmap to Molly internally. So we did an assessment of where she currently was when we first came in, and she was measuring a lot of the right marketing metrics kind of at the first level. And by painting a picture of what needs to happen as part of a roadmap or a maturity process, we find with our clients, it just helps people get aligned as to the vision. Really, it helps with CEOs who think you're going to hit level 5 when in fact you have to do level 2, level 3, level 4. You have to put in the work to get to level 5. So with that, and one of the benefits of going to this funnel of level 5 is you get the predictability around reporting, around forecasting, around your MQA process that is much more predictable than having multiple funnels, sales, marketing, leads, accounts. It's all in one. Probably the biggest CEO or board level benefit is the insights that Molly's now able to show on an instant. She doesn't have to have somebody go run the analysis. It's literally just hit refresh in Salesforce. And you could see some critical questions getting answered of what's the speed from inbound to close versus what's the speed from partner to close versus what's the speed of alliances to close, and what are the different dollar amounts that are associated with those channels. Having that all in Salesforce is very, very powerful in one marketing dashboard. The last piece, benefit-wise, that we wanted to kind of instill was some sort of accountability. Having once been in marketing shoes before for too many years when my hair was black, we realized that a lot of times marketing produces activity, and that activity is not necessarily digested by the sales side of things. So we wanted to offer up a suggestion to Molly and our team to say we could have some joint accountability at the MQA level and put that performance on a dashboard such that we know when marketing's produced an MQA, that sales is doing something with that activity. It's got to be disposition. There no longer is this congestion of marketing doing a lot of activity and sales not taking any action. But it's a two-way street. Molly's got to produce the MQAs. So it's like mutual accountability, which frequently is missing in a lot of other organizations. It's not missing at CodeScience.
Right. Well, that's amazing to be able to hear. And also, incidentally, my hair isn't black either. I dye it. So look, one of the very interesting pieces about what you had done and the work you'd done was around how you've operationalized intent. Obviously, that's Bombora's core product, and that's the base of our business. And using it for sales is a very powerful use case, but being able to operationalize it for sales, I think, can be somewhat challenging for a number of reasons. So Molly, can you take us through what you've done and how you've operationalized intent for your sales team?
Absolutely. I'll talk to you about a piece that we did initially to validate, and then I'll hand it back over to John. So we wanted to understand and test our topics that were most important to our clients. And so when we took 5 accounts that we had closed recently, and we looked with our Bombora rep to say, okay, well, what happened with these guys 6 months before and 6 months after? And we could clearly see when there was high interest on these topics, right when we started talking to them, and, we can follow the path when we close the deal. So that was really important to understand what that lever was. John, do you want to speak to this other piece on here?
Yeah. So I guess a couple things that we did from an intent perspective. First, we wanted to simplify it, as we said before, from sales to marketing or marketing to sales. So the intent is really an ingredient in the cake, where sales isn't necessarily having to understand what intent data is or does. So we've got that element. However, for the high interest and the topics that Bombora generates, we have the ability, and this is the phase that we're now entering, marketing has the ability to target their content based on that information. So, but that's more of a marketing behind the scenes. Sales doesn't really have to worry about that or be concerned about what is intent, how do I think about it, how do I digest it. Sales is too busy for that. So again, the sales unit of currency is the marketing qualified account, which Molly and her team can forecast. And then everything else, the marketing team has the ability to really operationalize content nurtures based on that high interest in those topics.
Right. And I think that's a super important thing to understand, because from what you've explained, Molly, the marketing team really had a lot of insight around the intent and doing a look back and validating and being able to use that insight for planning. But what B2B Fusion has done is really simplify that so that all these insights already come to your sales team. And part of what I wanted to go into was how you use intent to be able to weight it in terms of the MQA and the output.
Yeah. So we, as I said before, we used Engagio, which is now demand-based, to calculate our engagement. And our engagement have a lot of different components or ingredients, if you will. And one of those ingredients is Bombora. And so as we weight all of these different things, Bombora is weighted more than any other intent data source within our calculation. And that's because of our validation process that we had done earlier.
Right, right. And I think that's something that stood out to me, because I think like with intent, it's a big buzzword at the moment, and it's been viewed as a silver bullet that's going to I guess solve all your problems. And the way that you've approached it in here, I think is very accurate in being able to use it in Symphony with other elements and other data sources. And I guess, is that something that that you see happening going forward, John? I think this is something we discussed before.
Yeah, a really good question. And I'd say it's probably the exception rather than the rule. I think a lot of the rest of the industry is getting very confused right now, and they're not necessarily looking at it that way. They're being a little bit more disruptive to the sales process. And having been an operator before, that was like the antithesis of how we wanted to operate or how we wanted to simplify things for Molly. So in this case, the Bombora intent data worked really well in that model because we didn't have to worry about a lot of extra customization. We just went in, it was an ingredient that we continued to tune into the marketing qualified account. And as long as it produces MQAs, how it gets done really is only relevant to Molly's team and my team. Beyond that, not as relevant. So
our sales team doesn't want to know that. They just want to have these fabulous MQAs delivered.
Right. Well, I think I probably know what your sales team wants to know. And it's probably this Jerry Maguire quote that I love, show me the money, which is, I think I've learned over the years that this is one of the most important things for marketing and marketers to be able to do. So Molly, I'd love you to take us through the outcome and the results from this project.
Absolutely. If I were to compare myself to Molly from a year ago, I'm a whole new woman because I actually have a dashboard and I'm able to forecast for 2021. I know by month what my MQA totals need to be to hit our revenue goals. I can tell you what flavors of MQAs they need to be to deliver to our goal and hit based on the conversions. And this is light years beyond where we were before. And we have the ear of the executive team because now we're at the table. We have, we can show what we're contributing.
Awesome.
Well, one thing I'd add to that last slide, Nirosha, if you stay on that for a moment.
Yeah.
We can't show all of the dashboard, right, for obvious reasons, but you could hear what Molly's enthusiasm, which that is music to my ears. One thing that we went through, this is the MQA level of the slice of the funnel that we shared earlier. In the lower right-hand side, one mutual discovery that we had was when we started mapping the different tiers, we found kind of this mishmash of accounts that were engaging, that were MQAs, that were outside of the ICP. And this is actually a pretty common issue that we see across multiple companies. I think in this case, and Molly, keep me honest on this one, I think we started unpacking that data of the mishmash and you actually expanded your ICP. So not only do you have the forecasting side, but I think you may have new revenue opportunities that marketing's now kind of unearthing or has the data that maybe didn't exist before.
Yeah, that's correct. We've definitely expanded our ICP based upon this data.
Awesome. And yeah, I think that speaks to like that idea of keeping something alive and breathing and being able to iterate and pivot so that you have the room to move and grow within it, which is amazing. And thank you, John, for bringing me back. So Molly, you're going to take us through some of the other meaningful metrics for marketing and for sales.
Yeah, so for the revenue team, it's now easier for sales to focus their resources because there's just the MQA model. We don't have to figure out and rank these other pieces. There's more metrics, which means we've got knowledge on which channels are driving prospects across the funnel. We also have a clear understanding of the marketing influence, like what is our role as we bring new logos to the table. And there's visibility on marketing source and influence accounts. And what does that mean? That means we get more budget, we get more resources, everybody's happy. This slide says it gives our executive team confidence that we're good stewards, but I actually would change that wording and say marketing is driving business, which goes to this slide. Well, we didn't have visibility before, but through the work that we've done with B2B, we've surfaced that marketing is contributing 44% of our pipeline, which is a great statement. We're really proud of it. And now, of course, we're in trouble because the expectations are greater, but we are getting more resources to support it as well.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think, John, you were going to speak to this result in context of other businesses that you've worked with and seen. And
yeah, absolutely. That's a proud achievement. What Molly and her team have achieved on very little resource of contributing that much to the pipeline. And the unfortunate thing, as she said, is now they're going to be asking, well, can you make 44 go to 48 next year or whatever? But it's a really good problem to have. And for a company this size to be sourcing this amount of data for the length of sales cycle that they have, this is awesome. It is awesome progress and a lot to be proud of.
Yeah, amazing. And I think, we would probably say that this is like marketing nirvana, because being able to have clear visibility, clear reporting, and have these types of results, that's incredible. Not incredibly anything, just full stop incredible. So what we have a lot of our of marketers that are joining this session and watching. This is one of my favorite sayings. So sharing is always caring. John, can you take us through a bit of what the key learnings were and considerations for other businesses that are looking at going through this process and these implementations?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll go through these bullets in a moment, but maybe not mentioned here is just having a really patient and awesome client on the other side of the equation. This is not easy work. And if you hear other sessions where people whiz through this, or you've got executives that just say, make it happen, it is challenging work to get to from point A to point B. And I'm proud that we've got from point A to point B. But going to what we've learned through this process, having one source of truth in Salesforce enables Molly and her team to really be business credible and have some insights at a business level as opposed to a marketing level. She can answer questions around the performance of her channels, inbound, outbound, and partners that previously she wasn't able to answer. To get there, though, we had to do a lot of definition, a lot of building, a lot of testing, a lot of iterating. It's not impossible, but it just requires a constant iteration. But as a result, we're now at the point where we're able to enable her to do the forecasting, as she said, like for the first time in 2021, with confidence. She knows her monthly cadence of what to produce or what not to produce. And another benefit is she found new target markets that previously she didn't have the data for. So now she has that. I'm not going to talk about the last bullet because it's a little bit self-serving. So maybe I'll defer to Molly on that one.
I added this bullet because I do think it's important. If you are sitting here thinking that this is something that you would like to undertake, I would definitely consider going outside your organization. It is hard work, and you don't want to lose focus on what the task at hand is. Go outside.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a super important point, like to be able to recognize what your skills and capabilities are and when you need to be able to help expedite implementation. So I completely agree with you on that point as well. So that sort of brings us to the end of our session. I want to thank you both so very much for joining us and for sharing this amazing story with us. I know that we've got a more detailed case study, so be on the lookout for that. And if you have any questions, we've got all of our contact details available here. Also, please stop by the Bombora booth. Everyone who visits will go into the draw to win a spa day kit to enjoy some R&R like we are on the beach after B2B MX. So thank you, John and Molly. Super appreciate it. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your conference. And that is it.
Thank you so much.